your child was born between 2025 and 2028, the government may automatically give them $1,000 to invest. But here's the catch. If you don't file the right form, they don't get it. And most parents have no idea this even exists. But before you assume this sounds political, this isn't about politics. This is about whether your child gets a $1,000 head start that could grow for decades. Today, I'm going to show you who qualifies, the biggest mistakes parents will make, the exact form you need, and this is important, and how this could quietly become one of the biggest wealth building tools for the next generation. So let's break it down. Okay, so Trump accounts are real. The IRS treats them as a special type of traditional IRA designed specifically for minors with special rules until the child turns 18. Each account is owned by the child, but it's managed by an authorized adult. And the headline feature is the $1,000 federal pilot contribution. For eligible children, the U.S. Treasury will deposit $1,000 into the account to get it started. And this isn't a loan. It's not a tax credit. This is a direct investment contribution. It's theirs. And the money grows tax deferred. That means you don't pay taxes on gains each year as a compound. So in other words, there's no tax drag. Now here's where this gets interesting. If that $1,000 earned an average of 8% per year for the next 60 years and no additional money was added, nothing, it could potentially grow into hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's the power of time, and that's why this matters. Now, here's the part that determines everything. To qualify for the $1,000 for your child, the child must be born between January 1st of 2025 and December 31st of 2028. They have to be a U.S. citizen, have a valid Social Security number. If your child was born before 2025, they can still have an account, but they're not going to qualify for the $1,000 pilot seed money. That 4-year birth window is everything. Now let's talk about who can open the account. And it's not just parents. There's a big misunderstanding here. The IRS allows an authorized individual to open it. That's typically a parent or legal guardian, but in some cases it can be an adult sibling or a grandparent may qualify based on priority rules. However, this is important. To claim the $1,000 pilot contribution, the person filing must generally expect the child to qualify as their qualifying child for that year. And this detail really matters. You have to be able to claim the child this year in order to claim this initial $1,000. Now, the biggest mistake parents are going to make is they're going to assume this happens automatically. It does not. If you don't file IRS Form 4547, your child is not going to automatically receive the $1,000. That form is the trigger. You can also go onto the website. We'll deal with that probably more this summer. But here's what you need to know about the timing. Contributions to these accounts can begin on or after July 4th of 2026. And that's when money can officially start going in, including the government's $1,000. Step 2 is we're going to need to file IRS Form 4547. This one's easy to remember. That's the numbers of presidents he is. President number 45 and 47. Who would have thunk it? But that's how you do it. So to claim this pilot contribution, you have to file this form. And this form can technically be filed at any time. But for most families, the easiest approach is going to be with your 2025 tax return, which you'll submit basically right now. That gets you in the system early. If you don't file with your return, there will also be an official portal, like I said a minute ago, and that's going to be at trumpaccounts.gov. trumpaccounts.gov. Now, to activate this after filing, Treasury is going to work through an approved trustee to establish the account. Around May-ish of 2026, families who filed should begin receiving information on activation. Then starting July 4th of 2026, eligible $1,000 contributions begin being deposited. After that, personal contributions can also begin. And if you want to move the account to another provider later, that can typically be done via a trustee-to-trustee transfer of the full balance. Think of the same way you can with a 401k. You can move it from one advisor to another advisor, roll it over from the 401 to an IRA. Same thing you do with your IRAs, because it's very much basically just an IRA with a few bells and whistles. Now, the contribution rules are important. The annual contribution limit is $5,000 per child per year. That includes all sources other than the extra $1,000. That's for parents, grandparents, friends, employers. The government's 1,000 doesn't count, as I said, towards that 5,000 limit, and employers can contribute up to 2,500 per year, but that does count towards the overall $5,000 cap. So we're going to have to be very careful with this, and contributions are generally not deductible. If contributions exceed that limit, there can be IRS penalties unless corrected. So it really is important that we coordinate this. We don't want grandma giving them 5,000 and we gave them 5,000. We could end up in a real mess. So we have to be careful with this. Now, these accounts are tax deferred, not tax free like a Roth. During the child's minor years, the growth period it's called, the account is generally locked with limited exceptions for certain transfers or corrections. After that period, the account generally follows traditional IRA style rules. That means withdrawals can be taxable. Early withdrawals may face penalties unless an exception applies, and if there's after-tax basis from contributions, taxation can get technical. We got a long ways to go for that. We get there, but this is a long-term vehicle, not a short-term savings account. And so you're going to want to understand these things. But the bigger picture is this is one of the first large-scale efforts to give newborns an investment account instead of just a tax credit. Supporters say this builds ownership culture from birth. Critics say it may benefit families who can afford to add more money. But regardless of your politics, the math of compounding is real, and a 4-year birth window makes this unusually time sensitive. Now, there's a lot to these Trump accounts, so you're going to want to stay tuned. We're going to bring out other videos and get into more of this, the details of this, especially as the rest of this year goes. But if you have a child born after 2024, go ahead and comment below, 2025 baby. I'm genuinely curious how many families this applies to that listen to us. And if you want updates as the Treasury releases more implementation details, make sure you subscribe, because the parents who understand this early are the ones who won't miss it.